In today's Smarter Reflections, I've been thinking about what our response to the COVID-19 crisis has taught us about the digital divide. First of all, I've never been to the Grand Canyon, but I hear that when you do go, you're struck with the fact that it is real and it is larger than you even imagine. The same thing is true about the digital divide. In fact, the Brookings Institute estimates that about 900 million students right now are displaced from their typical classroom. This image is an image of about 1 million people. So you can imagine 900 million students. Of those students, many do not have access to the internet. In fact, even in this country, the FCC estimates that about 22 million people are lacking broadband internet access. And when you look at this map, one thing is clear. It's much worse in rural areas. In fact, about 1/3 of rural Americans do not have access or broadband access to the internet. That's a real problem because school systems say, well, during the quarantine, we'll just move our instruction online. That sounds good, but how about the fact that in some areas, 1/3 of their students would not be able to access that instruction? One thing that some of those students do is they will use their smartphone, which is a good strategy. However, it's not a complete strategy. There are many things that you can do with a smartphone, but many you cannot. For example, we provide smarter proctoring, which has automated proctoring as a modality. And so the student can use their smartphone or a tablet to schedule proctoring sessions. But when it comes time for that actual automated or live virtual proctoring session, a smartphone is not an appropriate device. Historically, schools and communities have provided internet access in a public place such as a library. But obviously now those libraries are no longer available. So one creative thing that some school systems are doing is that they recognize that they have a fleet of buses. So they equip those buses with these portable Wi-Fi hotspots. And so persons can get near the bus while being socially responsible and get their internet access that way. And on some of these buses, they're even equipping them with Chromebooks. So that's a really good strategy to provide access to the devices and the internet access. One thing that's a real challenge for school systems is they don't know which students have access and which do not. Well, for schools that use the SmarterMeasure Learning Readiness Indicator, they have this data because one of the sections on the assessment is technology access. And we're measuring things like what type of computing device will the student be using for their instruction? What is their access to the device like? Do they own it? Do they borrow it from work or school? Or do they use a shared public device like in a library? And how about their internet access? Do they even have it? Is it wireless, cable, high bandwidth? All of that data we collect so a school system, even at the beginning of a crisis like this, can tell which students are on the disadvantaged end of the digital divide.